Right now we're going to welcome in Mark Trible of the Courier Post, talk some high school wrestling, put a bow on this season. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Sully.
What's happening, boss?
You know what, man? I'm just embracing the March Madness, the wild weather. You know, I'm just embracing it all, man. How you doing?
Pretty good, man. Yo, Haddonfield, they might want to extend this construction project for another year or so, considering how well the football and basketball teams have done.
They've won everything, right?
Who needs a gym or a football field? Let's just go win everything. They might have to, make a donation to the Cherry Hill West Booster Foundation.
It's been an unbelievable year for Haddonfield, and it's just like every other year, man. It's like they always find a way to be there at the end with swimming, basketball, soccer, field hockey. Doesn't really matter. They're right there at the end. So, yeah, construction project be damned, man. They find a way.
They're one of those little schools, little towns that just constantly produces good teams. Kind of like Buena. You know, Buena's a real tiny school, but they're good in so many sports. A lot of tough kids, and just a cool school, and a lot of great teams that come out of there. And just anytime you play Haddonfield in anything, you know you're up against it.
Oh yeah, and South Jersey, like you said, they have a number of schools like that where I think you look around and you might, as somebody who's from the outside. When I came in, you look around and you think, oh, well, this is not the biggest town. There's not a lot of people. You kind of wonder what the fuss is about. Then you see their teams play, and it's just remarkable what they're able to do with smaller numbers. I was thinking about that last night, actually. I was at Deptford for the first part of the doubleheader, and they saw Ocean City. But to see Haddon Township, who is a very small school, they lost in the state semis to Boundbrook in girls basketball, but to have a couple players of that caliber, especially Grace Marshall, a couple other girls who could really play, and to be such a small school and kind of tucked into a neighborhood there, it's really incredible when you think about it, Sully.
Yeah, Pennsville kind of reminds me of that too. They always kind of have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, like, hey, we're that town by the bridge, and nobody respects us, and you see them play some good football and baseball and that kind of thing.
Well, and how about Cody Wood? I mean, he made to the state final this year in wrestling. He did not lose until that state final. He's from Pennsville, and it is a unique place. I look at Tyreek Brown, Pennsgrove. I think he plays fifth in the state in wrestling, and he's one of our best football players in the area. He's only a junior. Jonathan Taylor, obviously, played at Salem.
Yeah.
Corey Clement, Glassboro. Small schools with some big talent. So it's cool. Pennsville's definitely one like that, for sure. It's kind of the last stop on the way out of the state. But it's incredible. It's amazing, really, to think about it.
Mark, what was your takeaway on Boardwalk Hall this year and last weekend? Obviously, it's the kind of the mecca of high school wrestling for New Jersey wrestlers, and everybody trying like heck to get there. And once they get there, to place. And some of the cool stories happen in those placing matches. The 3-4, the 5-6, and it's so interesting to see the different reactions of kids and where they place. And you see a kid like Steven Schwab from St. Augustine Prep, who's been grinding his whole career just to get there and to actually place was a huge thrill for him. So it's neat to see some of these guys who, obviously they know they can't compete for a state championship with some great kid in their weight class, but to be able to get there on the podium is really a great thrill for these guys.
Well, Sully, the one thing about wrestling that always stands out to me is the wrestler's ability to be honest with themselves and to be honest with the people around them. And I think that comes with the severe accountability they must have when they lose a bout in a gym and there's nobody to blame but themselves or the other guy just being better than them. And it's very clear when you get into this time of the year, or I should say before this time of the year since it's over now, but talk to some of these kids, I always like to ask them, what's your goal? What would make this season a success? It's not like football or basketball where a team that that really isn't very good in the middle of the season might be 3-3, or 1-4 says, well, we want to win it all. Well, everybody wants to win it all, but it's not reality a lot of times, Sully, like you're saying. Wrestlers know specifically what they want to do. There are guys like Schwab who would say to place would be a really big deal for me. I know Anthony Croce of Camden Catholic told me, I want to be on the podium, but I want to be on the podium. I don't want to be 7 and 8. I don't want to be the guys who are kind of down on the floor. I'd like to be 6 or above. There's guys who think Tyreek Brown, like we just talked about, he wanted to win regions and get to state. He didn't win regions, but he did get to state, and he placed there. So you're right. There are the select few who will just tell you straight up, look, I want to win it. And there's some that can't. But most of them have a pretty good idea about where their bar is set, which is kind of cool. Like, I wish I had that type of, I don't know. I'm not as honed in when it comes to goals. I'm more like, well, I just want to do good,
Mark, you could try to be as good as Glory Days, but you might have to settle for 6th on the podium when it comes down to that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of resigned to that part. I still don't have.
We're just on different
t-shirt.
levels. That's all,
Yeah, I still don't have a Glory Days T-shirt, which I still give you a hard time about. No beanies.
I think you've earned a couple of T-shirts. We'll get some out to you.
Yeah, I'd love. I wear a large. I'd love one or two. I just. It's bad enough to be behind you in the rankings, Sully, but to not even get anything for my troubles is a little bit over the line.
We're talking Mark Trible, the Courier Post, and Mark, one of the coolest pictures I saw from the whole weekend was I believe his name is Bennett, the kid from Delsea. He put up the picture, I guess it was from NJ.com or something like that, where he was celebrating finishing 2nd in the state, and the other kid was kind of looking at him in the picture, and he said something funny on Twitter. He's like, this kid thought I wouldn't celebrate finishing 2nd in this whole state of New Jersey. So that was kind of a cool picture. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I did. I know Joe Warner, who was shooting for us, got a similar shot, and it was funny because I was down talking to Quinn Kinner and Mike Baricki and the coach Kingsway after Kinner won his 2nd consecutive state title. And we're down there talking, and in the middle of that, Delsea was wrestling, or Bennett was wrestling. And he comes into, I don't know what they call it, but I kind of call it the bullpen, after the match. And all the Delsea wrestlers were following him, and they're all smiling and clapping and laughing. And I think even Coach Greg Sawyer was laughing. And I'm like, did he win? He said, oh, no, he lost. I'm like, well, what's going on? What's going on here, man? And they said, he put up the 2 fingers. So, I think his name next year, he's a junior, he's coming back next year. The way he did it, he looked a little like Nixon with the 2 fingers in the air. So instead of Tricky Dick, we'll call him Tricky Nick Bennett next year, kind of apropos. Hilarious.
He kind of stole that kid's thunder a little bit.
Well, kid's looking at him. Ricky Cabanillas of DePaul is looking at him, and kind of, you could see him kind of thinking like, am I missing something here? I think for a second he may have duped him into thinking he lost the state championship. Like, I worked really hard for this. Did I not win? Good for Bennett, man. I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was great to find that out, to see the replays. I thought it was a riot.
What was your overall takeaway, Mark, of the whole weekend? I know that's a real grind for you guys from daily publications who have to be there all weekend. You're staying in a motel. You're just kind of living it for 72 hours there.
My biggest takeaway is probably that it's still a phenomenal event. I think there's things that could be tweaked, but I think that about everything, especially with things that are set up by the state. I always find something wrong with it. For the most part, it's just a great weekend. And it is long, but it's worth it when you get there Sunday. Talk to the kids who won. Talk to kids who lost. it's always refreshing in this line of business. And I would say if people don't have the same experience covering high school sports, then it's time to probably hang it up. But Sunday is reflective of every other part of the season. You know, those last games, those last matches, the seniors that you've kind of watched, and you can, and you know, they cross over that line from being athletes to soon to be high school graduates. Man, it's really cool to kind of say goodbye, good luck. You know, I'll be rooting for you down the line, and it's very fulfilling to do that. And that's what I love about Sunday. And when that happens at the end of the year in wrestling, it's very cool because of all the matches that you have all day Sunday. That a kid might finish 7th, he's really happy, and he's kind of hanging out, you know, waiting for the state finals because he has to get on the podium, and you can kind of just chat for a little bit, and I enjoy that a great deal. So it was a great weekend. You know, there was a whole towel incident when you called me last week, and we'll go into that another time. But Atlantic City's Boardwalk Hall is the place to be for 3 days a year for New Jersey wrestling. I think that's it's a special thing.
It's cool you mentioned that, Mark, about these kids, and we kind of develop a little bit of a relationship with these kids. We kind of see them grow up from 14-year-old freshmen to 18-year-old seniors, and they get to know us, and they know our names and who we represent and all that kind of thing. And it is kind of neat to be able to say, hey, you know, I enjoyed covering your career. I said that to Mickey Baker of Ocean City last night. They lost, and that was her final basketball game of her career. And I say, hey, you know, it's been a pleasure covering you and seeing you have so much success in your career. And it is kind of neat relationship you have with the student athletes.
It is, Sully, and I think it's easy to lose sight of that. I think that, you know, you go through the season, there's the hat, and in football season, and Matt Pack T-shirts, and this stuff, and really, I don't think you understand the bond you're forming with kids sometimes until it gets to the end. And, you know, it's you know, if a kid comes up and hugs you and thanks you, it's really means a whole lot, you know, and that's happened to me. I know it's happened to you. It's happened to so many of us that you kind of always understand what it means to the public to be able to read about their favorite teams and to get a kid's name out there. But when a kid is excited just to pay some, I don't even want to say gratitude because it's our pleasure to be able to do it, but to be able to say it meant a lot to them and their family, it's kind of overwhelming, Sully, at times, and it is the best part of this job. There's no question.
And it is neat when you might go into a local sub shop or something and see an article you wrote 4 years ago still hanging up on the wall.
Yeah, that's why grammar is really important, you know, because you don't want something to be hanging up there that has a comma instead of a period, you know, because then you'll look like a dope for the rest of your life on somebody's wall. But yeah, it is cool to see that too, man. I mean, it's a great business, man. It really is, and to be around people like you, John Russo, O'Kane, you know, countless others at Boardwalk Hall, and then all year even, the colleagues that we have here in South Jersey are some tremendous people, and it's a pleasure to be involved with it.
Well, you did a great job this year, as always, Mark. We appreciate it. I'm sure the wrestling community does as well. It's hard to find guys that are into wrestling, so we appreciate all the work you've done throughout the last couple months.
Look, if it got me a couple T-shirts, that's all that matters, pal.
You got it, man. They're coming out in the mail this week, buddy.
All right, Sully. Thanks, man.
Have a great weekend, man. Thanks.
You too.
That was Mark Trible, the Courier Post.